Good evening, everybody. I'm Lou Dobbs. Donald Trump unexpectedly clearing his schedule to focus on the New York primary in less than 2 weeks. Trump canceling a Friday press conference in California, skipping the Colorado Republican State Convention Saturday. A campaign spokeswoman confirming the frontrunner will instead be campaigning throughout New York. Part of the reason that Trump may be able to do that is because he's leading Ted Cruz in all of the polls in upcoming primary states, including New York. A brand new field poll out of California shows Trump with a 7-point lead over Cruz. A Washington Post poll out of Maryland showing Trump with a 10-point lead over Governor John Kasich. Cruz running third. This week could hardly have started better for Cruz, but his Wisconsin win hasn't produced momentum in any other state to this point. And New York is downright hostile to the senator from Texas. The New York Daily News cover didn't mince words with its front page that read, "Take the FU train, Ted." And Cruz now furiously trying not to necessarily win New York, but simply to try to block Trump from winning 50% of the vote and taking all of the state's 95 delegates.
Donald Trump has been supporting liberal Democratic politicians for 40 years. I have no experience with that.
Well, I'll take all of that up with the former chairman of the Republican Party in South Carolina, Van Hipp, among our guests here tonight. Also, I'll be talking about who's the best candidate for jobs, the economy, the middle class, with the CEO of Teton Capital, David Sokol. Also tonight, Bernie Sanders doubling down on his criticism that Hillary Clinton isn't qualified to be president.
Are you qualified to be president of the United States when you're raising millions of dollars from Wall Street, an entity whose greed, recklessness, and illegal behavior help destroy our economy? If Secretary Clinton thinks that I just come from the small state of Vermont, we're not used to this, well, we will get used to it fast. I'm not going to get beaten up. I'm not going to get lied about. We will fight back.
And I'll have a full report for you on the increasingly bitter Democratic battle coming up here tonight. Our top story, the battle over New York voters. Ted Cruz desperately trying to win over religious voters on Donald Trump's home turf. But a lot of New Yorkers still hold a grudge over the Texas senator's infamous quip about New York values. And the Real Clear Politics polling average for New York shows Trump with a 31-point lead over Cruz. 31 points. Fox News senior national correspondent John Roberts is in Brooklyn and has our report.
Running a distant third in the latest New York polls, Ted Cruz today courted religious voters, making matzo at a Jewish center in a conservative section of Brooklyn, visiting a Christian academy in the upstate, reminding voters Donald Trump once rubbed elbows with elite liberals.
Now, our friends in the media tell us that Donald Trump is unstoppable in New York State. Oddly enough, our friends in the media are very comfortable with a New York liberal who has supported Andrew Cuomo and Hillary Clinton and Chuck Schumer for decades.
The appeal to religious conservatives won't win a landslide. A tiny 8% of New York voters identify as evangelical, and most Jews in New York identify as Democrats. What Cruz is doing is trying to keep Trump below 50% in New York, the threshold at which he could take home all 95 delegates. But Cruz has run into a buzzsaw of criticism over what he said at the South Carolina debate about New York values, including this new ad from the Kasich campaign.
I think most people know exactly what New York values are. And I got to say, they're not Iowa values and they're not New Hampshire values. Everyone knows what New York values are.
Ted Cruz divides to get a vote. John Kasich unites to get things done.
Kasich is campaigning hard here, encouraged by new polls in nearby Pennsylvania that show he is the only Republican who beats Bernie Sanders and buries Hillary Clinton. A fact Kasich believes delegates will keep in mind come July.
Everybody now knows we're going to a convention. And at a convention, delegates are going to examine who can win in the fall, which I'm the only one that can consistently win in the fall.
Unbelievable!
With his path to collect the majority of delegates before the convention narrowing, Donald Trump has decided to make his unconventional campaign a little more mainstream. He has appointed Paul Manafort, who engineered President Ford's 1976 convention victory over Ronald Reagan, to head up a new D.C. office. The campaign will hold regular meetings with supporters at Capitol Hill and will soon be adding a number of seasoned operatives to beef up staff for the final push to California.
Sources close to the campaign tell me the fact that Donald Trump is beginning to hire Washington insiders is a sign that his unconventional style of campaigning is not getting him where he needs to be. We should say that there's a little bit of a protest going on here at a John Kasich event. Montel Williams was just introducing him, and a fellow stood up to shout him down. But let me just continue what I was saying, Lou. Donald Trump has been bleeding delegates to Ted Cruz. He needs to stop the flow of that. But a real question here is tonight is, can his gritty team in New York get along with these Washington establishment insiders? We'll find out. And now here at the Kasich event, and Lou, I've got to tell you, I haven't seen this before at a Kasich event, because he is, of course, the kinder, gentler candidate, but they're trying to shout this fellow down, and pretty soon they'll get him out of here, I'm sure. Very interesting to see this guy trying to shout down Montel Williams. I'll step out of the way here, Lou, if you want to take this for a second.
John, I can't hear what they're shouting there. But there is something spectacular about an anti-kinder, gentler protest, and particularly a fellow trying to take on Montel Williams, who's, well, he's not likely to fail to hold his own against any number of protesters.
Kasich. What it seems to be, Lou, is that there was a fellow in here who said he was an undecided voter. He started shouting at a Republican voter who was here. The Republican voter started shouting back at him. They apparently know each other and just got into a dust-up here at the Kasich event. Lou, it's a really incredible year in politics here in the United States. And, you know, as they say, politics ain't beanbag. Here in Brooklyn, it sure ain't.
In Brooklyn and throughout New York State, as Senator Cruz certainly and likely Governor Kasich are finding out. John, great to see you. Thanks so much. John Roberts reporting from Brooklyn, as you might have guessed.